back to the Find Your Place podcast. My name is Jessica.
And I'm Bianca.
And this is a pod where we talk about all things finding your place in the world and in real estate. And it's interesting because from the beginning to where we're at right now, we've kind of shifted our take and how we've decided to present the podcast and the type of guests that we're having. And we're now in our 12th episode. We're so happy. Thank you for joining us throughout this whole journey. Today, we have an incredible guest with us who we are so excited to host. And last week, we spoke about mental health. And actually, even the week before that, we did as well with Dean, and we had like a male perspective on it. And our guest today here is Mary. Mary, how do you pronounce your last name?
Tompros.
Tompros. Lovely. Her energy is so incredible. And we have her here to join us and talk about her journey and, you know, shed some light on what she's gone through when we think about mental health. Some of you may have seen her post on Instagram. She's literally a ball of energy. So I can feel it from her. So we're just going to have a conversation with Mary. She's going to talk to us about her journey, who she is. I honestly, like, Bianca and I know nothing about Mary. We reached out to her online. Yeah. We saw her on...
we just loved her energy. We just loved how she presents herself, and we wanted to share her with you guys.
Yeah, and just her transparency. And I think that for me has been huge in the last year, just speaking to people who are going through things that other people are likely going through. So Mary, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me here. You know, I'm obsessed with neighborhood anyway, so I love the building. I love it. It's like Disneyland, so I love it.
And we just, right before we hopped onto the podcast, we literally had a dance session.
Because it's tradition. Every podcast must end and start with a dance.
Yeah. And I feel like just in general, most people's lives should just start with music and dance because it truly is healing.
I do feel a lot better, to be honest with you.
I know last week we were like, we should have danced.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for being here. So honestly, I want to know everything about you, where you've been, and I guess you will take the lead in terms of how you want to present the information. You know, we could say, tell us about Mary when she was younger, but talk to us about what's on your heart, how you feel, where you're at. I kind of just want to know your story, and I'm sure Bianca's super curious as well. And the topic that we previously just discussed in the other episode was mental health and how, you know, people get to certain places and how can we support people when that happens, or maybe the things that lead us into these certain spaces. So the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Mary. Hi, I am 29 years old. I'm a mental health counselor and advocate in Toronto. I started sharing my story, I want to say about 2.5 years ago. So I live with a chronic audio and visual hallucination. It's currently here with us now, which is super cool. It was joining us for the whole dance party and loved it.
Okay.
So my story didn't start technically first with a hallucination. I started first at 14 years old. It was due to trigger warning. I did try and take my own life. Obviously, I didn't succeed, but I did try and take my own life, which obviously spiraled me into going to the psychiatric ward. And then from the age of 14 to 24, I was in and out of psych wards, rehab, group homes, got in trouble with the law a few times for really stupid things. So yeah, it's been a whole journey and a half. So feel free to ask, honestly, kind of whatever questions you want.
So you said 14 years old, there was something that triggered you to want to take your life.
Yes.
But then we're talking about the audio visual. Was it audio and visual when it?
So first it developed as an audio. I was in the shower. Yeah. I heard a voice. I went outside and I saw that all of my roommates were gone. Yeah. They were away at school. So I was like, you know what, Mary, like.
Were you scared?
Honestly, so because I've had a mental illness from before, and I don't know why I did that.
Because it's a label. It's
Yes. Yeah. Because I had one from before when my hallucinations voice had appeared, I guess when the audio had appeared, I was just like, you know what, Mary, it's probably just stress from school exams, maybe too much tequila shots on a Tuesday night, like put that back a little bit, you know? So I was like, you know what, girl, like, you're fine, just like focus.
That's what anyone,
that's what most people, I feel like, would say to themselves.
Yeah. Especially when you've had a prior mental illness before, you just assume like, this is probably just stress. I didn't really think anything of it. Then about 2 weeks later, God bless my roommate Megan, who I love so much. Her and I were driving to class. I see my hallucination crossing the street. What do? You slam the brakes, obviously, because you're afraid that you're gonna hit the person.
Yeah.
Megan smashed her head on the dashboard.
Oh my gosh, poor girl.
I felt so embarrassed, and we like laugh about it. Like obviously now, I'm like, girl, I'm so sorry. She's like, nah, it's fine. It's all a part of like the roommate journey. I was like, I don't remember this being a part of the roommate lease.
Sign up for it.
But sure. So then literally it just kind of just stuck around with me. And then for months, I just tried to like play it off. And then one day it just exploded and I told my psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And he was like, we're going to admit you because this has turned from borderline personality disorder, depression to now psychosis symptom trait. We weren't really quite sure. So then that's when I was admitted. That would have been now my 6th or 7th time at that point. And it was an admissions not due to self-harm, due to the fact that I had completely lost my marbles. But to be fair, I think we've all lost our marbles.
A bunch of times.
Exactly.
Numerous times. We just do it really, really privately, you know?
Yeah.
And then we come out like it can never happen.
It's true. It's true. So you said you were just talking about borderline personality disorder. Is that the correct term?
Yes.
Yes. So this is where it gets tricky. So I have an atypical case. So the origin of borderline came out in like 19 something by Adolf. I'm gonna forget his last name. I don't even know. Yeah. But so back then, borderline was diagnosed as being on the border of neurosis and psychosis.
Right.
Obviously now I believe that diagnosis has, changed. I'm not really quite sure, but the origin of borderline means on the border of neurosis and psychosis.
Right.
And if you get to know me very well, you would obviously know that it totally hits home because I experience hallucinations or a hallucination. I experience depression, anxiety. I have manic episodes. I have super depressive episodes. Sometimes I won't sleep for 3 or 4 days.
There's also black and white thinking. Is that a common thing? Yeah.
Yes. Very.
What does that mean?
So it's like whether everything is either bad or everything is amazing. Like there's no
in between?
It could be in between, and either you, correct me if I'm wrong, either you can idealize someone and they could be like the best person in the world, and the next day you can absolutely like, because you feel rejected by them in some way, you hate them
Yes, you said it completely spot on. So yes, the black and white thinking, completely true, which is why in school I always thrived in mathematics because mathematics, it was 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
When it was English or anything where I had to think, that was never my strong suit because I was a very yes or no thinker, which is why I think my mental illness had developed because at 14 years old, which is how this all started, my mom, she's been mentally ill her whole entire life, very undiagnosed, and it is what it is, but she couldn't take care of me and my younger sister, so she left us in the care of our father, and that was her behavior and how she went about it was very traumatic. My father, God bless him, he's my rock. He's been there through me, like with me through everything, and so is my younger sister, so like shout out to both of them, I love them so much. But because she was undiagnosed mentally ill and raising 2 children, it became a complete fucked up situation.
Do you talk to her now? Are you guys?
We have a very complicated relationship.
Like all mothers and daughters.
Yeah.
Yes. Like I'm very famous for saying like you don't forgive for them, you forgive for you.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of holding all of this pain?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I am still very upset at how the actions played out, but I also have to remember that when somebody that is struggling on their own can't take care, you can't blame someone for not being able to.
It's. Go ahead.
No, I feel like that's so mature and so enlightened of you to
How
think
old are
of
you
it
today?
that way.
I'm now 29.
Now you're 29. Yeah, she said that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a journey. Okay. And so what about your sister? Is she like neurotypical?
She is my sister is one honestly strong ass bad bitch.
Yeah.
She is honestly, I tell her all the time, she is a superwoman.
Yeah.
She forgives, she forgets. She is honestly like the Mother Teresa. Like I tell her she is.
Is she younger or older?
She is younger than me only by 18 months, but she is honestly the person that I look up to. Like she not only picked herself up from the ground, she also picked me up from the ground, and she's been with me through everything. Everything. Obviously, my Dad has 2, but that's a parental like duty.
Yeah.
As like a sibling, she is just,
She's bomb.
she is the boss.
Do you live together or
No. She lives with my future brother-in-law, actually. Yeah, so we're very excited about that. Yeah, so they're quite, so they live together, and we only live like 15, 20 minutes away, so it's super nice.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, like I see them twice a week usually for dinner because I can't cook, but my sister, she can cook kind of.
Good enough.
She's good enough.
family.
George, my brother-in-law, fantastic cook.
Okay. So one of them can.
Yeah.
I love that.
Greek food?
Yes, and then his mom, she'll make like kick ass, sorry for swearing, like homemade Cypriot food. Oh my God, so good, so good.
So we were having a dance party before we started our podcast, and you were saying that that you dance. Yeah, you get encouraged to dance before therapy. So I wanted to ask you about your therapy and how does one go, like what is the modality that you have to use specifically for you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a hard one.
Are there many? Like, are there different modalities for?
So because my case is atypical, there are so many different, I would say, ways that I incorporate different forms of therapy, like art therapy, music therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, and then as well DPT, which is dialectical and behavioral therapy. Yes. And it is I take different, I want to say like skills from all different parts of therapy because not everything works for me, which is why the case is atypical. So some skills that work for somebody, let's say that's schizophrenic with their hallucinations, might not necessarily work for me. But there are some skills that they, let's say, use that I will use.
What's the difference between a schizophrenic
That was
hallucination?
that was my question. Yeah, because I don't know this stuff. So what's the difference?
Yeah, what's their experience versus yours?
Honestly, everyone has a different experience. The only reason why they can't deem me as schizophrenic is because I don't fit all of the criteria. Right. I'm not quite sure what the criteria is, but there's, I believe, let's say like 9 or 8, and you need to fit, I believe, 5 on the DSM-5 Act. Yeah. So if you don't fit 5, then they can't really. So I have a psychotic trait. I've spoken to many other people that do have schizophrenia, and our experiences, obviously, no one is the same, but the experience generally could be the same. For the most part, the only thing is for me, medication doesn't work. Yep. And mine is constantly with me from the moment I wake up to the time I go to bed. And like, even if I say go away, leave, whatever.
Yeah. Do you ever fight with it? Does it ever upset you? And am I allowed to say it, or is it a she or a he?
I don't describe the gender, but you can totally say it. Okay, totally good. It does have a gender, just for the reasons I just say it. Yeah. Yes, we have gotten into a few altercations. I mean, as it's gotten older now, and I obviously will not release the age, but as it's gotten older now, people, when they get older, they sometimes get stronger. Yeah. So we've gotten into altercations. Just recently, has it like hit me a few times or whatever, because we've been in distress. But for the most part, the way I like to describe it is like a intrusive thought. Like if you're not feeling the greatest, your thoughts are not feeling the greatest. Yeah. So when I'm not feeling the greatest about myself, then my hallucination will just go kind of at it. And this is where like facts versus feelings come in. And that's a DPT skill that is used, which
Is this true? Is this true?
Yes.
That's what you keep asking.
Yes, like it's.
I'm in therapy now, so like.
Oh, okay. Which do you mind if I ask you about therapy if you don't mind asking?
Her style, her modality is like Byron Katie.
Okay.
And Byron Katie is like centered around 4 questions, and it's about taking a thought and asking if it's true, and then it's about asking, okay, who are you with the thought, blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, what would it look like if you didn't have this, like, okay, so if you can't answer those 2 questions, the question is, what is this thought protecting you from? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. No, we do it's I find now that a lot of therapists have taken CBT, DPT, and ACT, and they've merged it together just because from what I remember through research is So DPT was created because many people were finding, example like me, that cognitive behavioral therapy wasn't working.
It's like cognitive behavioral therapy is more alone. Like you're doing stuff either between you and a therapist or you by yourself on like paper.
Yes.
Versus DBT, which is like group.
Group, and there's individuals. So there's a lot of like DPT and ACT, what I find is you have to sit with the emotion and work through the emotion. For cognitive, from what I remember, and please don't quote me, but from what I remember, is that you are changing the way you think. So I am sad. No, I'm not sad. As opposed to DPT and ACT, it's I am
Yes,
sad,
I am.
but let's work through this.
Yeah.
So what we found years ago, because back in the day when I was 14, remember that was back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, came maybe not that far, but you know what I mean? It was just there was DPT because Dr. Marsha, I'm gonna say her last name wrong, so I'm just not going to say it. She though found that a lot of her patients were not succeeding through cognitive behavioral therapy, and that was because, example, people like me, I can't. Okay, I'm sad. No, I'm not sad. No, I'm sad. I gotta sit through and work through this emotion. So that's when DPT was created. It was a building block, and then ACT kind of became the building block after. So what I find is a lot of therapists now embody all of it. Like, I'm sure you've heard about mindfulness. It's embodied now in kind of everything. So yeah, it's
Interesting. So this is actually a question that you already started to touch on. I wanted to ask you. You said your hallucination is with you from the time that you wake up until the evening. And there's certain things, I guess, that will trigger the altercations. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's when your thoughts are low or when you're feeling down. Is that when the altercations start to present themselves?
Yes. It's very much like the best way I like to describe it, like what I said earlier, is just like a intrusive thought. So like when you're feeling shitty about yourself, what do your thoughts feel?
Yeah,
But-
and they get exemplified, right?
Yes.
They sound. It's almost like they're screaming.
Yes.
Right?
But then like when you feel like you're on top of the world, then my hallucination and I were vibing, we're great.
Yeah.
But if I'm not sleeping, if I'm not eating, if I'm overly stressed, I'm more vulnerable to my symptom of being a complete, pardon my language, asshole.
Yeah.
You know?
So cute.
Yeah.
You know, but then now I'm sure for the normal everyday person, when they haven't slept, eaten, under stressed,
It's the same. Yeah, it's similar. Yeah.
we need sleep. We need to eat. We need to, I'm not saying exercise where we have to become these bodybuilders, but we have to move our body every day. We need to eat food. I'm not saying eat clean 24/7. Yes, have that McDonald's, but make sure that you're eating a healthy, balanced lifestyle, because everything is connected at the end of the day. And I feel that we have this misconception that mental health is its own thing. No, mental health is connected to physical health, 1,010%. Because when you are feeling lethargic from eating crappy food, let's say, what ends up happening to your mood? You're more irritable. You snap more.
That's literally me.
Yeah.
And that's the majority of us. How many of us say that if somebody doesn't sleep well, they're cranky? Now somebody that has a mental illness doesn't sleep well. Now that's amplified by significantly more.
Yeah.
So taking care of yourself, not just for people that are mentally ill, for everybody, is crucial, because one little thing can set off so many other things. Okay, sure, when I don't sleep, maybe my hallucination goes off on me, but I'm sure when you ladies don't sleep either.
No, for real.
Yeah.
No, for real.
No, actually though, yeah, for
I
sure.
actually realized that I usually get about 5 hours of sleep, and by day 3 of my 5 hours of sleep, I'm like I'm not even a person anymore, and I'm having a hard time trying to keep that 8 hours, because I know at 8 hours I can actually function throughout the day. I'm really pushing it with the 5, but sleep, food, and just movement and circumstances of, like, depending on, we were talking on our last episode about the content that we consume. So like television, news, media, like what does that do?
I don't watch the news. I will be honest with you. I don't
My
watch the news.
girl.
That's what's up.
I don't watch the news. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm the worst person. I do not watch the news.
We kind of believe that, like, the more awake people are not watching the news these days.
I prefer to live on Fantasy Island. I've been doing it forever, and I'm going to stay on Fantasy Island. When I did turn on the news a few years ago, which we'll get into that soon, is obviously how this whole journey started. Yeah. So I try and stay away from the news.
Wait. Now you have to tell us. Let's not wait. Tell us.
Okay, so obviously we know we live in Canada, and we know that police brutality has skyrocketed over the years. I don't know if you ladies have heard about the wellness checks that have gone wrong in Ontario.
Briefly.
So there were 6 in the span of 4 months that all these individuals or their loved ones called to, preserve their life, not end their life, saying they're not feeling well, they're mentally struggling. They've already disclosed that they have a weapon, but the weapon is a kitchen knife and used to harm themselves, not anybody else. It's also been disclosed that they have either schizophrenia, bipolar, schizoaffective. And I don't know where the officer's confusion or safety comes into play, but they enter the scene knowing this is a wellness check, knowing the individual has a mental illness, knowing, yes, they have a weapon, but the weapon's already been disclosed and it's been disclosed the reason for the weapon.
Yeah.
So where your safety at hand comes into play is very confusing. And unfortunately, what happens, and I hate to say this due to stigma and stereotype, when you hear schizophrenia, psychosis, bipolar, you think crazy, dangerous.
Yeah.
So obviously, what do? We pull the trigger. I was absolutely disgusted by this, and I had said enough is enough. I work with children. I'm a swimming teacher. I babysit. I tutor. I drive.
Yeah.
I have boy problems. I have female problems. I have school problems.
You're
I
a
have
human being.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me different is I have a hallucination that's here with me and everybody else doesn't. But that does not make me dangerous. So I said that because I live this quote unquote normal life, it's time to drop the ball and let people know, hey, listen, this could be me. And I'll never forget when this had happened, I messaged my family a group chat. I said, change your plans. So we are not calling the police anymore. We need to have a different plan. CAMH also came out a few weeks later urging that like the police are not supposed to be involved in this
In
anymore.
any capacity.
So I have a friend who's a police officer, and he's a wonderful gentleman, and he was working with a nurse and with the CAMH unit, and he does wellness checks, and he'd tell me all about them and how some of them are pretty difficult and scary, but that you need to be trained specifically for that, and you cannot have it another way. Yeah, because what you see, it's like it's what you see on these calls. It's you need to be trained. Like it's not possible to. You can't understand it if you have. Yeah,
1,010%. Like I tell people all the time, I spent many years in the psych ward. Our social workers are these little yas, okay? They're these little things, okay? Now, if they can calm down a really big gentleman, there is no reason why another big gentleman can't calm down another big gentleman.
Yeah.
Or even why another gentleman can't calm down another female.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like, and again, I'm not trying to say like women aren't strong or whatever, but I saw the women that look dangerous.
Yeah.
They look like me.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? Seriously. Like, okay, sure. Like, have I bit an officer before? Yeah, whatever. But I was like 17 at the time, whatever, it happened. And they were trying to bring me back to the psych ward. It happens. But the point is though, it's not like we're not dangerous. Yeah. We don't wanna hurt you.
Yeah.
We wanna hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
And this is why I do not blame the police themselves, because they are coming in with and again, this isn't me being ignorant, but we aren't educated in the school systems, period, or in the community about what we speak about depression, we speak about anxiety. We don't speak about suicide. Twitch just died. Everyone's saying resources this, family that. Listen, I'm gonna be upfront with you. When you have an illness
you don't reach out. I know.
It's not even that. And this is where I'm gonna get super
Do it. We want it.
emotional is
not that part. Sorry.
every single day I struggle. Every single day I wake up and I want to end my life. I have the best resources that honest to God money can buy, because my dad has spared no expense. We'll get into the whole stupidness with our government later. But my dad has spared no expense, privatized therapy, private this, private that.
Yeah.
A day doesn't go by where I still don't think about taking my own life. So if I were to take my own life, let's say, which obviously I'm not, but let's say I were, and people were to say, oh, she had resource, oh, this, oh, that, or this, but it doesn't matter because, again, when somebody has cancer, let's say, and they do chemotherapy and the chemo doesn't work and they die, do we say, oh, well, they had the resources? No, we say, what a tragic. So why are we not seeing this as an illness? It's an illness that eats away at your brain. It makes you think that you should not be here, whether it's because you're suffering or whether you feel unworthy or unloved or whatever the reason is. Your brain is being eaten up by, I like to call it like a little dark monster kind of thing. So your brain is being eaten up seconds by seconds, hours by hours. And we have this, sorry to say this, the balls to say, oh, well, they had resources. Oh, well, they had this. Oh, well, they had that.
We definitely shouldn't be blaming people who do things. Like that's not what we want to do, right? We're not blaming anybody. Yeah. Oh, they had the right resources. Why didn't they? That's crazy. No.
Or they're wealthy, or they're this, or they're that. Let me tell you something. I've been into multiple psych wards where People are from all walks of life. CFO, CEO, homeless, student. Yo, at the end of the day, it's a mental illness. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor.
Yeah.
It does it matter if you're rich and poor when it comes to accessing resources? 100%, and we will definitely get into that. But at the end of the day, you can't say that, oh, this person had money, so there was no reason for them to go when they could access all these resources. You are 100% right. But does chemo work every time? No.
Yeah.
So what the fuck makes you think?
And we also want to make clear that
Sorry again for swearing so much. I like swear all the time.
You can swear. That suicidal ideation doesn't mean that you like. Even if you idealize the idea of the thoughts, that sometimes it has nothing to do with death itself. It has to do with the ending of suffering and pain. And it's like I don't want to die. I just want to feel this.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing is that you think that people want to end their lives. They have a thought that says there's going to be peace. Like I just want the peace, and it's like
that. That is something that I've told my psychiatrist. I get emotional. This is something I've told my psychiatrist so many times before, is living with what I have. And again, it's not a pity party. It's extremely difficult. And yeah, there are days where I'm like, fuck, put me out of my fucking misery. And I know people are like, oh no, your life this, oh, your life that. Please, for the love of God, just understand, like, people are suffering.
Yeah.
We need to really and again, I'm not saying end your life. Dear God, no, please do not.
No.
Do not end your life at all.
Yeah.
But I'm saying before we throw it's ridiculous to the person, how about we sit down and have a conversation
and understand
with them and understand why they're feeling this way? Because when you tell somebody it's ridiculous, that just makes it 10 times worse.
Have you experienced that a lot? Have you experienced a lot of people in one way or another telling you that like you're not grateful for your life, or you have like it's ridiculous, it's like how what a stupid thing to say, like all these?
In the beginning, yes. Yeah. In the beginning of my life, yes. But again, you gotta remember, I'm from a European culture.
Eastern European, yeah.
You
think, you
have
it. You have it hard. Really, you have it hard.
Yeah.
Okay, you go back to our country and you see what hard is.
I used to walk to school with one shoe.
Take the bus, then take the metro.
I'm like, listen, I understand. I'm like, I can't imagine what you must have been through. Fuck, man. But like, this is not a you story.
By the way, we're all European.
Oh yeah, we're all European. Yeah. So it's just. At the beginning, yes. Now, through all of this, absolutely not. Yeah. Everyone is like, Mary, we're sorry.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to be sorry about. It's just now we understand that you're suffering. And now when you tell us this, we sit down and we have a conversation with you. It's not you're ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which is very important. And I think...
So what's the advice that you would give loved ones who do have people who are struggling through mental illness? Like, what would you tell someone who loves someone else who's going through it to do? What would be your advice?
You have to understand that the person that's telling you this, it is so painful and difficult for them to even speak about it and stomach it themselves. So if that person is telling you something like this, suck back every emotion you have and be supportive. And when they leave, cry, scream, throw things at the wall. I don't care. But when they are in...
Because they already feel guilty about feeling the way they feel. Yeah. They don't want to feel like a burden.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that is the thing, is that it's extremely important that at the end of the day, when that individual is telling you what they're going through, you must, as shitty as it sounds, because no parent, no husband, no wife, no best friend ever wants to hear that their loved one wants to die. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't imagine what my loved ones go through. I can't imagine what they've been through, what they've gone through, and I give them full credit.
They could feel very helpless because they don't know They don't know if, like, okay, what if I do the wrong thing and say the wrong thing and then something happens?
Yes.
That's what they're going through.
Yes.
Yes,
and that's when you have to remember that there's no such thing as right or wrong. It's just about being supportive and listening.
So that's my next question. What does support look like to you? When you say being supportive, how do you feel supported when you're around your family or your friends?
My family and my friends have been absolutely nothing but supportive. Now, when it comes to everything that I go through, like, there will be moments where I tune out or I zone out. And instead of being like, Mary, like, snap back into it, they let me engage with my hallucination, and then they come back and we don't even talk about it as if it was anything out of the ordinary. The other thing is, when I tell them I'm feeling very suicidal, instead of running and jumping, oh my God, we're gonna admit you, oh my God, this, oh my God, that, it's, I'm gonna come over for dinner, how about we talk about this so that way we can work through what triggered this emotion.
Yeah.
And it's all about, at the end of the day, really listening. And I understand that as a person hearing this, it is difficult to stomach. And I'm not saying be this strong superhero, but in front of them, be the strong superhero, and behind our backs,
Yeah, whatever you got to do.
whatever you got to do, go for it. And I know this sounds selfish to say, but it is so hard for us to even speak about it.
course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Chances are you won't even hear it from us. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a very...
how would you tell someone who has issues? How would you tell someone to have the courage to speak about it to someone they love so that they can get it worked out, right?
I tell people all the time, and I know this is a famous quote, but I live by it. I would rather hear your story than see you at your funeral.
Yeah.
I'm very big.
No, but the other way. So like how do you encourage someone who has issues and is dealing with any ideation or depression? How do you encourage them to speak? Because it's like when you're there, when you're isolated, you literally want to be alone with that horrible
1,000.
like what that's my biggest thing is how do we encourage the people when they're in their darkest place to reach out?
We need to remind them, which is the whole thing, is that I would much rather hear why you're upset than have to find out 2 weeks later that you ended your life. So for me, I tell people all the time, it is important for you to reach out. Even if you don't feel comfortable, you have to reach out, because I'm telling you, somebody wants to be there for you.
Yeah.
You might not think somebody wants to be there for you, but nobody ever wants to say goodbye. I've lost so many friends, and if I had just said, if you had just, and I know it's not my fault, it's no one's fault, because if it's their time to go, it's their time to go. But if we can stop it, we might as well stop it. So I believe that it's important that even if you don't want to speak out about it, type it out in a letter, email it, text it. There are so many different ways to communicate how you're feeling, but communicate the message. And even if the message doesn't make sense, who cares? Communicate it, because I promise you, there is somebody in your social group, in your family, that will do whatever they can to be your voice, to be your legs, to be your arms, to be your everything.
Okay, so on that note, you're speaking about voice, you're speaking about communicating. The way we found you is through your social media, and it seems like you've gone a long way with talking about your journey and what has happened. So I'm curious to know what led you to take that first step to start talking about your story, because it makes me think, well, you've been dealing with this since you were 14. So my first question is, how many of your people actually knew that you had this hallucination? Were you open about it? Did you talk about it? And two, once you were able to start talking about it, what do you think this has brought to the people around you? So, I don't know. I just think this is incredible. This is why you're here, because we hear about this through books, through films, but briefly at very surface level. Just like you said, you'll hear that people are anxious or depressed, but what's far beyond that, right?
We never hear about suicide.
We don't. Depression. We literally don't. And we were saying actually on the last episode, we're hearing about it more and more. I heard about Twitch because I was on Instagram, but imagine Instagram didn't exist, right? So was it always happening this much? I think the conversations aren't happening enough. So my two questions are, when you were younger, did anyone around you know that you had this hallucination? And two, now that you're communicating, you're showing, what has that looked like? And when did you feel comfortable to start sharing?
So there's multiple parts, so I'll answer them.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was 14 years old, when I first started to take my own life, we're talking back 2007, 2008. Mental health was not spoken about. Suicide, all that stuff is not new. It's been around forever. The problem is it was just never spoken about because we haven't had our cell phones to be able to talk about it. But when I was first diagnosed with depression, we didn't really say anything. I'll never forget this one time, and I know my dad had every good intention, but I was hospitalized, and it was a weekend pass. It was a Greek dance function thing. And I'll never forget, I went to the mall, I bought a new dress, I bought a new everything. My sister and I, we got all dressed up, we did our hair, we did our makeup. It was my first time out of the hospital, because you are allowed passes in the hospital, because The goal of the psych ward is to get you reacclimated back into your environment.
Yeah.
It's not to keep you locked up forever. No,
Yeah.
they teach you skills and techniques like make your bed, shower, because you'd be surprised how much making your bed and showering is
Changes,
a chore.
Yes.
changes things. Yeah.
Yes, but when you're in that depressive mode,
You don't do it.
You don't want to even brush your teeth. There were days where I didn't shower, and obviously we'll get into that later. But
I think you
but
posted about that. Yeah.
so.
You're really
Yeah,
not
the weekend
saying
pass.
things that other people have not done. Like that
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
and people who are
We just don't
perfectly by
talk about
any
it, though.
standards normal.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, yes.
We just don't talk about like, oh, I've not showered in 4 days. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's because you don't want to shower. It's not
Yeah.
ill. You're gross. You're
Yeah.
going through something.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I tend to
okay.
jump back and forth. So
You got a weekend pass.
yes. So I got this beautiful dress from Dynamite. It was like a baby doll thing. I literally remember the dress perfectly. It was like brown, yellow bow, and then it had like flowers. I remember I thought I looked gorgeous. And we get to the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church parking lot. My dad looks at me and goes, listen, everyone thinks you're just going in for testing. No one knows what's been going on with you. That definitely broke my heart. As I got older, I realized that he was doing it to protect me because people were going to judge. Because let's face it, we always judge the unknown.
You had a moment where you thought that he was just embarrassed of you, but really,
But he was not
protecting
embarrassed
you.
of me. It was him protecting me.
Yeah.
And again, I'm
Did
not.
you hear that? She said, we judge the unknown.
Yes, we do. We judge the unknown because we don't know. And that's why, going back to my original thing, I don't blame the officers. I don't believe in defunding the police because defunding leaves room for excuses. We allocate funds or we put more funds in.
Yeah.
That way, if this bullshit happens again, sir, you've been funded, you've been educated, you've been trained. So I believe that we don't get mad at anybody because mental health is old to me, new to the world. So we have to remember that people like me, even though people like me have been around for hundreds and thousands of years, we're finally having a voice because so much shit has happened that now people like me are standing up saying, hold up a second, excuse me, I could be next. And look at me like this. But when I'm in a state of mind, you're right, I don't look this cool, calm, and collective. But does that make me dangerous? Absolutely not. So I knew that my dad was protecting me. And again, it's not because people were bad people. It's because when you don't know about the unknown, you are afraid. Also, media hasn't portrayed mental illness as really super well, like the psychiatric ward. First of all, we would order pizza sometimes.
Yeah.
We had, obviously, it was an amazing experience by the end because I met beautiful people and we all got to grow into these beautiful individuals. But there's no, like, I would check under the bed. There was no chains.
Yeah.
There
All
were
the
no
crazy
straight
stuff.
jackets. Like, come on, Hollywood. Like, call me next time you want to do a movie. Like, I'll give you the proper 411. Because, like, look, it looks like the adult ward is 4 beds to like a room. So it's like a typical, like, hospital room. And then the like adolescent ward is 2. It looks like IKEA flat beds. You have a curtain as your little privacy, which we never cared because we were always open, chit-chatting, whatever. And then we each had 2 desks because you had to go to school. School was still mandatory. There was like, you still like, there was a teacher, Miss Teresa. I love her to death. She's still there at Sunnybrook. God bless her soul. She is the reason why all of us got our grade 12 or got our grade 11 or grade 10 because you had to get up every morning and go to school. And Miss Teresa made sure, like, she would talk to your teacher. So she knew, Mary, algebra's due today. I was like, no, it's due tomorrow. Not what the email says. I was like, yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? So it was, I don't want to say it was like camp, because at first I thought it was like jail at the beginning because there were rules. But these rules should be implemented, honestly, for all of us, though.
Yeah.
We should wake up by 8 o'clock and have our bed made. We should have breakfast. We should shower because we are taking care of ourselves. So I'm sorry to jump from that.
This is amazing.
But by the time I had hit 19 and it was like a bunch of suicide attempts, it kind of like I started telling people. Also, it was very awkward when my boyfriends had no idea. And then like months later, I was like, yeah, I'm in the hospital. They're like, for what?
Yeah.
And like, God bless them all. They were all super supportive.
Yeah.
Like I give them full credit. Like I've never had an ex that has ever been like,
You're crazy. You're whatever. You're
never. Like I've been very grateful.
Yeah.
So it was just always, why didn't you tell me? And it was, well, because I was embarrassed. There was stigma. There was this. There was that. And then when their families would find out, it was like, okay, Mary, like, pass the bread. Like, let's butter the bread. Like, didn't phase them either.
Yeah.
So it was just that, I think because back then there was stigma and there was stereotype that I'd become conditioned to just shut my mouth and not say anything. I was working at a swim school at the time, which I'm still very close with. And I used to take off 1 day a week, everything for therapy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I got a lecture this. Like, Mary, you're not in school. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, whatever, because I couldn't keep up with my like lies. Then one day I was like, listen, I go to therapy. Listen, this is my issue, all of this stuff. Now, when it came to my hallucination, because that developed later at 19, we didn't really tell anybody. Honestly, I can't, to be honest with you, I can't even remember why, but we just didn't say anything. I think, honestly, I was more embarrassed. I think it became more of shit, Mary, like, now we're with something else again. We're like, crap, you start off at 14 with this, then you get this. So I think it was me being embarrassed. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think that it was an ego crushing thing for me, and I think that's why I didn't say anything. And then I'll never forget, I used to always talk about Belle, let's talk day, Belle, let's talk day. And then for a few years when I got into my swimming career and everything like that, I stopped talking about it because I got so embarrassed of the stigma.
Did you also feel a little bit tired about it at the time? Did you feel like maybe like it's pointless? Or
Yes. It was very much of a mix of that.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, when the police brutality stuff happened,
it like reignited you.
I was like, that is it. I am changing my name from Life of Mar. I'm becoming public to Life with a Hallucination, and I am going at it. My friends, some of them had an idea. Some of them had no clue. A lot of family had absolutely no clue.
Yeah.
Because it's not something you talk about.
And it's also not something that they necessarily see on the exterior. Like you said, you're dealing with it on the inside, right? So
yeah, you would never know. Like I mean, I can say now proudly we function quite well, and I get the stupid question like, oh, where does it go when you drive? I was like, oh, on top of my head. Like, what do you mean, where does it go when you drive? In the back seat like a person would.
Yeah.
Or like the famous questions like I get on TikTok is like, how does it open up the car door? I was like, well, it opens up the car door, but I know that I'm only seeing it. So like, I know it's not real. Like, I know I'm hallucinating it.
Yeah.
They're like it's just like, there's so many funny questions, and I just always answer.
Those are very odd questions that I wouldn't think to ask.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something I'd be like,
or the first
when it gets
question,
cereal, like what is like,
Oh my God, famous one. How does it eat? I was like, well, like, as soon as that was not technically real, like, I don't really like, they're like, do you like set a placemat out for it? I said originally at the beginning, yes, I used to really like embody it.
Yeah.
Now I embody it too, but like at a different level. Like a year ago, actually, I refused to even like touch it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying touching inappropriately.
Yeah.
I mean, even like hugging it or whatever. We did do the whole goodbye thing a few years ago.
Yeah.
That didn't work. So now I try like engage in it, like we'll high five each other, we'll do like stupid things, whatever kind of thing, because this is my normal and I have to just really embrace it. And it's funny because the message first came about me speaking about police brutality and wellness checks, and this could be me, and we need to be better and we need to educate. But then I realized that as much as I want to educate the world, I also need to remind people that like, you are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And you might not be okay the first hospitalization or the second or the third. Fuck, it took me 11.
Yeah.
And I'm getting, again, readmitted to a different facility like in the new year. So technically I'm getting admitted, but for like to deal with my hallucination. So it's funny, and I'd say funny and like whatever. Like I was in rehab 3 times before I got it right.
Yeah.
I was in group homes multiple times before I got it right. I was in the psych ward multiple times before I got it right. It is okay to fall on your face. The point is just to keep getting up, because eventually you will get to the finish line, and there might be multiple finish lines. That's what I learned in life, is there's more than just one finish line, and you get to the finish line at your own pace. And if anybody has anything else to say to you, then you just like put them to the side and let them watch you win the race at your own pace kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
So you said your hallucination is with you right now. So while you're sitting here, are you getting any feedback from your hallucination? Like, I'm interested to know what the relationship is.
First of all, it told me that I stuttered a few times, and it said that I don't think you made sense with a few of the questions that they answered. And I was like, possibly, but I don't know. I guess I'll review it later when we go back and see the tape.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
cute.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe. I don't know, but it loves neighborhood. So it's definitely very, very comfortable. But it's Sorry, I just got sidetracked because I was talking
That's
again.
okay. The
What was question?
relationship, like,
yes,
what's-
our relationship. We are friends.
Yeah.
In the most unconventional way, we are friends because it's not a romantic thing at all. It's not anything like.
Have you heard of people who have a romantic hallucination?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure. I haven't really done my research too much,
Yeah.
so I'm not really.
Do you have people who reach out to you who maybe discovered that they have this through watching you and
Yes.
not even knowing it?
Yes, I have, which is why I decided to pivot my career from accounting to go to social work because I got bombarded with questions
Wow.
by families and people suffering, especially in the psych ward, asking, how do I go about this? Because at the end of the day, and no disrespect to doctors, they know so much.
But they know so little.
Yes, and when it comes to textbooks, that's great, but people forget that like, usually when it's a high stressful environment, your psychosis appears. Because when you're doing like, when your body's in neutrality, why would psychosis appear, right?
Appear.
So when your body's in trauma or in shock, I don't want to say that we all have some kind of psychosis because we don't, but I mean, how many, but you know what I mean?
To some extent, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that there's lots of times that we believe things that aren't real, and there are like trigger events that cause maybe a repetitive thought to like really take over, or you know, that cause a downward spiral into isolation and depression, and like I don't know. I think that that's
Yes,
Yeah.
there's this one girl that I speak to. She's from Ireland, actually.
Yeah.
Her mom found me, and we were talking while she was in the psych ward. And she says that I find that when I'm in a high stress, and now hers is an old man. She says that when I'm in high stress, I find that he's screaming at me, yelling at me. And I said, you must remember that just like how a normal person would be dealing with if they haven't slept or stress or this, they're gonna have these pounding intrusive thoughts. The same thing almost works for, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not speaking.
Yeah.
But what I found a common trend with all of my friends and in the psych ward, that when your life is disruptive, that's when your psychosis or your depression or something acts up. Like usually,
Would you say that it's less? Would you say that it's less of a not less of a hallucination, but it's part mirror?
you know what? I've been asked that question before, and do I believe it's part mirrored? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes and no, but I'm saying in the
Are
sense
you
of
ever an opposing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but that took us years. So like a lot of the times, and I'm not speaking for all, but for the majority that I've spoken to, a lot of us, when we have hallucinations, it tells us to harm ourselves.
Yeah.
Or that we are scum or we are this. For
Yeah.
years, I used to believe it. Now I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, you're wrong. So God knows when my neighbor's here sometimes, and I'm like, no, you're wrong. I meant to be here. So we will have moments where like,
You'd be disagreeing with one another.
yes, and it's always moments where I should self-destruct.
Yeah.
And how many times are you fighting that little thing in your head where it's telling you, no, do this or no, do that? And you're like, no, I like know what's right for me.
When I have negative self-talk, I've learned the skill of turning the negative voice into, I know this sounds, I don't know if I've shared it on the podcast before, but sometimes when it's been bad, I've turned the voice into a person that I really don't respect. So like an ex-boyfriend who was really demeaning or bad or whatever it was, I just imagine that it's him saying the things that I'm saying to myself in my head. And I'd be like, oh, like I don't take you seriously. Yeah. So like that's, I don't know if that's a therapy skill, but that's how I coped back when I had, you know.
I think, I believe there's not one skill that works. I believe there's so many skills that work. And I believe you can take so many different skills and even modify them kind of thing. So that's why I'm a big believer in therapy, and I'm a big believer in trying all forms of therapy.
Yeah.
The only thing that sucks about our government is we believe that mental health is a privilege, not a right. I've said this story many times before, and I will say the story again until I'm blue in the face. Me and my buddy, psych ward buddies, been together since like the beginning of our psych ward times at 14. Conveniently enough, jokingly enough, we always got admitted simultaneously around the same time. So we had both been dealing with some form of borderline personality disorder, and we had both signed up for the DPT program at KMH. At this point, it was a 3-year wait list for just the intake, which is very common because it takes, I believe, 4 to 5 years now to see a therapist, I believe, in Ontario was saying.
Wow.
It's very, very, like one of my professors, he's a social worker at KMH, and he was saying that it takes about 4 to 5 years to see a publicly funded. Privatized, you can find no problem.
Yeah.
Publicly funded is very, very difficult. So we had both put our names in. We'd both done our intake forms, whatever. Now flash forward, time goes by. We both get admitted again. My dad, and at this point now my mom had come back into my life. They had both said enough is enough. We are doing the privatized route.
Yeah.
So they took the privatized route. My buddy couldn't afford the privatized route. Single mom, whatever. The point is, single parent income, had to feed other kids, couldn't afford it. So waiting on the list. One day I get a call. My buddy's dead.
Oh man.
Fucks me up completely. Flash forward, we bury him. Literally, like right after that, the mother and my father get a phone call saying that you have now been
Accepted into
for your intake.
Yeah, for
By the way, this is very common. I'll never forget. I bring this up with my psychiatrist every time, and we still get emotional because like this is a very common scenario where. And again, it's funny how I said back with the whole Twitch thing that money and wealth doesn't change anything, and it does change things when it comes to resources.
But not your will to take those like
It's money and no money definitely come in handy when it comes to accessing resources. But just because you access the resources doesn't mean the resources won't necessarily help. Because example, chemo might help for one, but not help for the other. But they still got to at least both access the resources.
Yeah.
That's why I started even hopping on and sharing my skills, because DPT and ACT is $2,000 to $3,000. Like every
there are so many online resources and books and stuff that you can then you can even find like meetups, and you can find like there's groups that do it together for free.
Yes. And that's why I started, because I said, my program costs $2,000, $4,000 like a month. You know what I mean? A week. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to start sharing all of my skills, because it's about time that, you know, the skills got shared, because it's I don't believe that healthcare should be privatized. I believe it should be accessible to all.
Everyone, yeah.
Mental health is health. There should be no reason why it's privatized.
Just and that all goes back to what we talk about. You know, certain things are valued in society that we live in, and others are not. And the physical and the mental are often separated, but they literally work hand in hand, right? So you can go and get admitted into a hospital if you're not feeling well physically. You know, oftentimes that's tied to your mental health as well. But why is it so difficult to be able to get access to these resources? Like you said, right? So many years.
Or speaking about meds, I just thought about this. When you're in the hospital, you get your meds for free. Now, my meds.
Oh man, the expenses.
The meds cost about $1,000. And this was back then before Trudeau had the 21 below free, whatever. Now you're over 21. Yeah,
now
people
what?
say insurance, this, whatever. Yeah, insurance only covers so much. So now you're in the hospital. You're admitted, you're getting medication, you're finally up and running, going again. Then you get discharged. Who the hell's going to put the money to pay for the medication now?
Yeah.
So it's just
how much would it cost, like when you're out of it? Like,
well, it really depends on the meds and how many you're taking, kind of thing. Some could range from $800, some could range from $1,000. It honestly depends on the dosage, the meds, all that stuff. Like at one point, my dad was forking out because now I'm not on meds, which is why the case is atypical, because they haven't really found. Which is why they can't say I have schizophrenia, because I don't fit the 5 or
the criteria.
Yeah, which is why I fit the original borderline, which is on the border of neurosis and psychosis. So it's like a fruit salad of everything, technically. So
borderline's a real struggle. Like it's like with bipolar, you have your mania, and you have your hypermania, and you have your like depressive states. It's still very difficult in those times. But with borderline, there's almost like a more rapid cycling of those same symptoms, right?
Example, at 10:15 in the morning, I want to end my life. 10:55 in the morning, I am Alicia Keys.
Yeah. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and it can get exhausting when you hit that low again.
Yes. You're like, what the hell is going on?
So it's literally like this throughout the day?
Yes.
And never at the same time. It's literally...
No. And that's why the famous DPT skill, fake it till you make it, I embody, I live by. Yeah. Because even though it's bad to fake it till you make it, it's really not, because you are tricking your brain into thinking like, you know what, get up, shower, get up, go to school, get up, do this. So it's where I mix opposite action, which I embody opposite action.
Yeah.
Opposite action is the reason, honestly, I'm still alive today. because there's so many things that
Okay, that's a nice thought. We're still gonna get up now.
Yeah. Or I used to be a drug addict. There were times throughout, especially during COVID, where I just wanted to go back because, oddly enough, when I did drugs, my hallucination was gone.
Yeah.
So I became
That's actually a common, I've read about that.
a lot of us self-medicate. Yes, it's very, very common, and it causes bigger issues later. But hey, I was functioning.
During the time,
I was functioning. I got to go back to society. And because my meds were so expensive at the time and I was away at school, my parents would give me money for meds. I would use them for drugs.
Yeah.
So but there were moments in COVID, especially, where I wanted to engage in self-destructive behavior. And there were so many things where I was like, you know what? And I was like, no, Mary, opposite action, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And the famous one, fake it till you make it, I literally embodied both of those. And that's the reason why I'm still able to stand tall today. Because, example, this morning, I had a full meltdown, just, my inner thoughts, whatever. And I was like, get up. You are doing this because in the long run, you will be so grateful that you
did this.
Mm-hmm. And I am so grateful. but it's funny because you really have to
Aren't most people dealing with a form of this?
I feel,
because now I'm sorry,
you think about yourself, you think about
I'm looking this. How many times have I gotten up and been like, I'm not doing this today. Like, I'm not doing this today. The anxiety's overtaken me, and sometimes I've lost to it completely, and I haven't got up.
So now going back to the whole reason why I started Love with Hallucination is what makes me any different than you ladies, because we just had a full conversation expressing my symptoms and my things and everything that I was able to relate. So
we can echo.
Not only did other people that have hallucinations resonate with me, but the everyday individual was like, hey, holy shit. I could adapt opposite action into my life. I can adapt fake it till you make it. I can adapt positive self-talk. I can adapt all the skills because there is nothing wrong with taking care of yourself. And it sucks that you have to go into the psychiatric ward to learn
those skills.
Like, how many of us actually make our bed in the morning?
I do now.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. And how good do you
whenever I skip it, I feel like shit.
You feel like shit.
Okay, now question. When you've had a shit day,
you come home.
And you go home and your house is a mess, what happens?
You feel even more shitty.
I lay in my bed and I turn on Netflix.
See? So my friends always make fun of me because I used to joke saying, I want to keep my condo clean just in case Queen Elizabeth comes. So anytime I leave my condo, example today, I'm always vacuuming, swifting, whatever. So that way, if God forbid I come back from a hectic, crazy day, at least my environment around me
is clean.
Yeah. And that was big in the psych word was control what you can control. Get up in the morning, make your bed. And it's funny because
that's a military thing too, actually.
Yes. There's a famous book by this famous military guy called Make Your Bed. And it's funny because my dad gave it to me at the time when I was supposed to make my bed. So simultaneously kind of worked. But okay, they say in the book and in therapy that it's about accomplishing a little task. So when you wake up in the morning and you've made your bed, you're like, okay, cool.
I can do another thing now.
Yes. And the funny thing when it comes to showering, which it's a chore when you're depressed, but when you get out of the shower feeling nice and clean and you fix your hair, you do your makeup, you're like, my God.
I feel good. I look good.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about tricking your mind. So funny thing, on therapy days where I feel like shit, I am wearing a skirt, leggings, I'm looking good. And my psychiatrist goes, oof, we are having a day. I was like, we are having a day and a half. but I put on the eyelashes. So that way then I could trick myself.
Yeah.
And that's where cognitive behavioral therapy comes into play. So I embody so many of the different types of therapy, like acceptance and commitment. Like, we are committed to each other. We've accepted each other.
Yeah.
We have no other thing. DPT, I learned to sit with my feelings and work through them. And then with the cognitive thing, which is really the fake it till you make it, if I'm having a shitty day, I literally will put on my favorite fancy dress.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll take myself out to I live across the street from Harbor 60. So if anybody wants to creep me, feel free. So I will sometimes go there just to literally have their tuna tartare.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, you know what?
Feel good.
Yeah. And do I feel good that second? No. But an hour later, I was like, man, I look so cute.
Yeah.
Wow, good job, Queen. Pat on the
You got
back.
it.
Yeah. So it's that.
That's why you see when people are in those down states and you do go down that like really negative like spiral because you already feel shitty, then you don't want to shower, you don't want to dress up, you want to be in clothes that make you feel down, sweaters, sweatpants. Like I'm just thinking back to experiences of myself and my friends where when you get in those states, you don't want to do anything. And so now somehow everything is shitty, but the time when, and my mom used to always tell me, just get dressed up because when you look good, you're going to start to feel good.
So I've met her mom and her mom is like.
So maybe this is her trick because my mom always looks good.
Fabulous. Like I know they weren't doing anything that day when I was there. You know what I mean? Like she looks like this. Like this is.
So maybe that's, she's
Eastern
subconsciously done this technique where she's tricked her mind to do exactly what you're saying because look, when I talk to my mom, she's a human, just like my dad, like myself. Yeah. We don't always feel good.
But she always looks good.
But if you end up, I guess, incorporating skills or strategies that help you because you already know how you're going to react if something like your condo situation, perfect example for that. You know that you may potentially, you don't know, you may not have a good day, but if you come home and it's a clean space, you've already removed one stressor from your system.
Literally. So like, it's very important to like, and this is why in the psych ward, they try and really tell you, keep up with your day-to-day life, school, work, whatever, just because when you get out of that, they want your ducks to be in a row. So I never understood why I had to go to school, but it made sense because when I'm in the hospital, let's say for a month or two, and then I come out, the stress of all these stuff being piled up is going to completely spar me out.
You're going to end up back there again.
Yeah. So why not, while I'm here, work on my assignments? That way, when I get out in 2 months, I'm on track, or if not, somewhat on track with the rest of the students.
Right.
Yeah. So it was very much, and I think about this even now, is no matter how shitty my life and state is right now, I need to always think about 5 steps later because I will get out of this because my track record, and anybody else that's listening, your track record shows that you are one strong, badass individual because every single thing that you've gone through leading up till this day has been even more difficult and more difficult than the first, and yet you keep on kicking ass. So what does that say? That you are made not only to survive, made to live. And it's very important that people remember, look back at my track record. Look at everything I've accomplished. Look at the times when I was an addict. Look
where you really thought it was the end.
Yes.
Look at those times and look what happened right after.
Exactly. So always look back. Yeah. Every time I'm in those dark, shitty places, I was looking at myself and I go, Mary, you are hitting 30 in August.
August what? I'm also August
29th.
I'm 23rd.
Ooh, so Virgo or Leo?
I'm on the cusp.
You're Virgo.
Okay, yes, I'm Virgo. Which is why everybody says that I can handle my hallucination because okay, they say that Virgos are very atypical. They're very black and white thinkers. Is that true?
Yes, they are.
I'm not into horoscopes as much.
I'm not into them either, but I've read about the Virgos.
Oh, did you ever date one?
I am dating one now. Yeah.
Well, we're fabulous.
Doesn't leave the place without it being clean. Yeah. Very black and white thinking.
Yes. So that's what honestly I think made me survive my hallucination was I was like, listen, chick, you are gonna get through this. Just like, let's do this. Which I'm sure, see? So obviously your boyfriend's fabulous. Brownie point. I love that. But oh my God, what were we talking about? Sorry, I get bad memory.
I was doing this at our last episode constantly. Yeah, you're like
clean space, habits, doing your work, school.
Yes, so it's very important for people to remember that when they are going through a deep, dark time, look back at your track record. Like I'm 30 in August, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not gonna get emotional about this. I can't even fucking believe that I made it. I'll never forget. This was a few weeks ago. I was at my Sunnybrook appointments, which I'm there quite often, and my old occupational therapist that's still there was taking out the youth. I said, hi, Leslie. She goes, oh my God, hi, Mary, how are you? So we went out, hugged, whatever. One of the patients was like, oh, you're a doctor? I was like, no. I was like, I'm a patient here. Yeah. Leslie goes, yeah, she used to be like one of you guys. And they were like, wait, how old are you? I was like 30. She was like, oh my God, then there is hope for me.
Oh my God, I literally got goosebumps.
And I just started breaking down. I was like, girl, listen, every time you want to attempt it, just remember that like that 30-year-old girl that you met. Just remember that you are going to make...
How old was this person?
I want to say probably 15, 16 to be in like that ward. So she was definitely under the age of 19.
Yeah.
So probably from the age of 14 to 19 from what she looked like. Then again, I'm short and kids are giraffes. I would probably say like
probably there.
16, 17. But yeah, when she has said that, it really hit me. And then I said to my I said to my psychiatrist that has been with me from 14, because he's still my adolescent psychiatrist, but because we haven't found what is going on with me, they don't want to switch me over to anyone just because we've already done so much work. So why so I stay with him. Obviously till he retires, which I'm gonna freak out when he has no. I think another like 10 more years, which I'm not which I was supposed to leave him 10 years ago, like at 19.
Yeah.
I was supposed to leave him at 19. My friends and my family, it was I was not about it. And then so then we just kind of stuck together. Yeah. But like I told him all of that, and he was like, Mary, like remember like when you were 14, you were like, I'm not gonna make it to my 15th or my 16th or my 17th.
Yeah.
So you have to remember that you made it here today, and I don't know when it's gonna get better, but it will get better because your track record has shown that you're still standing tall today. So people have to remember, like, look back at your track record, because your track record shows that you are strong and you are powerful, or else you would not be able to be here standing today. So you got to just really own in on that.
Yeah. Oh my God. I literally love your energy. It's so sweet and pure. I wanted to, are we good on time? Are we over?
Oh, shit, I talk so much.
No, that's okay. That's why
exactly
you're here. We
Yeah.
want you to, honestly, I think out of all the 12 episodes we've had, this one is going to hit home for a lot of people. And I guarantee you'll probably have people reaching out to you.
I really hope I made sense, because like...
You made
because
entire
it
sense.
literally keeps on saying like, you stuttered, and I was like, okay,
We all stutter.
We all stutter. I used to stutter as a kid a lot. I could not get my thoughts across.
Yeah.
And now I look to what I'm doing now, and my day to
I
day
used
involves
to,
me
hit
speaking.
my like legs and stuff just to get the words out.
I remember I was little, I was in class, and I used to volunteer to read to force myself to do it. And what I would do is I would figure out how many people are in front of me so that I could know which paragraph I'm reading.
And
Because
reread it
I
like 10 times
fear-
before.
Yeah, because I would fear that
me.
if I don't do that, then I will stutter more. I'll get uncomfortable. So I used to stutter a lot when I was younger. I don't even know why, but I think sometimes I still do, which is why when I started the podcast. Anyway, so the reason why I bring this up is you will be helping so many people with what you're sharing. I really hope that you can get onto more podcasts. I don't know. Somehow,
you should make your own podcast.
you should. You really should. Like, this shit is so important. And you asked a really good question. What makes me different than the rest of you? You are sharing so many things that Bianca and I, in our heads alone, are thinking, holy crap, I've thought this, or I've been through this. And also looking at ourselves like, we've caught each other in these moments, right? Yeah. So I know therapy oftentimes, like, it has this stigma around it, but more and more people I talk to now, I try to encourage an open conversation around it. I think we all need a therapist. We've spoken about this before. Like, this ends up coming up. Like,
Howard Stern goes to therapy. God bless him. Five times a week. He goes every day. And he's got one of the most popular podcasts, I would say, Howard Stern. Like, he's like very, very well known. He openly talks about going to therapy every day. I was like, yo, God bless you, sir. I don't have that much time, but good for you.
Yeah, and time or money. But I mean, he can, you know.
Good for you.
But yeah, I mean, I'm going to inquire more about this stuff too. I wholeheartedly believe in it. Bianca said she recently started going to therapy.
I love it.
I used to do it a few years ago. Want to get back into it.
So this last therapy session, when I got on the phone with my girl,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so every week that I've gone off the phone with you, my life's gotten better. And she was like, can you take that and put it on Google? Because it's odd, because it's like, it's a simple, it's like, what are you struggling with? And it's like one sentence, one belief system, whatever it is. And it's questioning the thought, it's unraveling the thought in therapy. And then it works throughout the week. Like my first week, my relationship was like 100 times better. My second week, my business was 100 times better. And now this is the third week. I've only done it for 3 weeks. And it's it's the best. I should give you her number.
Do you know why? Because you are taking care of you. And that's why many people, going back, we all have listen, I believe we all have mental health problems at the end of the day. Not one person can say, oh, no. Listen, you've all had something go on.
Were you ever diagnosed ADHD?
No, actually, no. Surprisingly, no, which I mean, I'm sure if I were to get tested now, probably I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea. I just say
they slap a lot of labels on us. anyways,
yeah. No, I just say because I borderline, I have a fruit salad of everything. So maybe, who knows? But yeah, no, I just really believe that like therapy is not just for people that have a mental illness. I believe it's for everyone because we all have times in our lives where if we just had a little bit of extra help, it would have made that difficult experience go a long way, kind of thing.
It makes me think like, are you putting your child into, I'm thinking of a sport. Do you put your child into soccer because you know they're going to be a professional football player, soccer player? Or do you just put them in there because you think it'll be good for them? So that's how I think of therapy. Are you only going to go into therapy because you've been diagnosed with something, which oftentimes most people aren't even diagnosed? Or should you take...
Well, they probably have to go to therapy to even get the diagnosis at some point, right?
Yeah. Or do you just go and do therapy knowing that you could be better with the support of someone else? So I'd love to wrap that episode up with that. Mary, did you want to add anything else? How can people reach out to you? I know that you've pivoted. You said you're taking your career from accounting to now social work. How are people reaching out to you? Instagram, your handle?
You can reach out to me through Instagram. So there's Life with a Hallucination. There's also another mental health platform that I recently co-own with Rachel DaCosta. She is a phenomenal registered psychotherapist, and we co-own Self Love Supply, and it's a mental health online community where we throw events, workshops, all that fun stuff.
Nice.
And then on TikTok. On TikTok, I'm more open about my hallucination, but that's because of the fact that TikTok lets me talk for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Instagram was like 35 seconds, girl. Like that's all you get kind of thing. So I was like, I can't really talk much.
So what's your
what
TikTok
was it on
handle? Same
TikTok?
thing?
Yes, it's the same thing. Life with a Hallucination.
Okay.
And that's where you will see a lot of the, like, you'll see one of the episodes that, like, me and my hallucination had where it was a very, like, distressful thing. And so many people commented saying, like, I experienced the same thing. And I was like, because we're not alone, but because we don't share enough, people think they're alone. So now I'm like, listen, it's about time I share everything so everyone knows we are not alone. But yes, the last thing I want to leave off with is, number one, always reach out. And number two, you are made not just to survive, but to live. So look back at your track record and remember, everything you accomplished was because you had the power to do it within you. Yes, therapy helped. Yes, family helped. Yes, meds helped. Yes, whatever. But it was because you did it. So always remember, the power is within you, nobody else.
You're amazing. I have nothing else to say.
I love you all.
Yeah, we got to end it with that. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.